So a lot of the businesses we incubated and started ran fast, failed. We put $50,000, $100,000 in each business, gave it 4 months, set the expectations, it worked or it didn't work. But out of those came real businesses. We are very industry agnostic because business is business is business. I don't care. B2B, B2C, B2A, I don't care what level you are. People do business with people and you have to have a compelling thing. This is my approach. I may fall on my ass. Great. Okay. But it's sometimes you get lightning in a bottle when you zig and they zag. When you take a very unconventional approach at things, that's how big problems can be solved. And that's what we like to try and do.
What's up, Jeremy? Welcome to the show.
How's it going? Good to be here, Justin.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I talking off air, I was like, hey, we probably should have hit record a little sooner than we did. But, I'm glad that we're going to have a fun conversation because you got the makings of so many people in our community being, a founder who has exited and now you're on the investment side. But I'd love to talk a little bit about your journey and some of the lessons that you've learned as an entrepreneur. And then I think it'd be fun to get into what life looks like today with investing and tax strategy and peer group and how that has probably shifted over time.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'd love to. So I'm in Lexington, Kentucky now. I'm from a small town called Bardstown, which is like the bourbon capital of the world. So I'm a good supporter of the bourbon industry, by the way, but like 30,000 people. And growing up in that small town, I always wanted this, I always had this yearning desire to kind of just want to go do more, see more, and be more. I had that, big fish, small pond mindset. And I always set my sight on New York for whatever reason, like Sinatra, right? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And through a really windy path, that's why the title of my book is called Without a Plan, No Actual Direction, I ended up on Wall Street. So day traded when I was 19, made a couple $1,000,000. Before I was 20, lost all that in 4 days, which was awesome.
Oh, that's painful.
One of the top two best things that's ever happened to me in my life, retrospectively, right? In the moment, you're like, it's over. But that actually catapulted me into, I think, my career on actual Wall Street as an institutional equity trader. But I think that comeback from 20 to 22 is what's fueled this naive confidence, maybe, that just has led me to go through like, what's the worst that can happen? Are you going to lose $2 million in 4 days? No. Okay. Well, we got through that. And that's been it. So actually, I started my entrepreneurial journey, soon after, I was on Wall Street. So I'd lost a bunch of money, was, in college still. My mother would have killed me if I dropped out. Got an opportunity to go and get hired on Fidelity, and I was get trained for my licenses, Series 7, 63, etc., and then going to night school to finish college. And I made it. I was in New York City. I was living in Chelsea, and like just living the life. I didn't build back the $2 million, but I was high net worth and making really good income for a single guy in Manhattan. But something really just was like a light bulb went off. I always had all these ideas, and I don't think all of them were bad. Like maybe not all of them were good, but some of them had to be good. And no matter what the idea was, I would take it up to my senior or the senior trader or what have you. And it was a lot of just stay in your lane, kid. That's cute, whatever. And you hear me speak now, I don't sound like I'm from Kentucky. The first thing was, I'm just a fucking hick. Maybe my idea is great, but maybe I just sound like Jed Clampett or something. And like, that's why they don't believe my idea. So I started to really just be a bit of a chameleon. Now I do business all around the world. If I'm around my Aussie buddies a lot, I'll be, speaking like I'm from South Melbourne or something. But that was the first piece. And then after that, you quickly realize that, I was making a lot of money, but that was all I was making. And I found out where, unfortunately for me, because most people don't find this out until later on in life, that I'm a creator, I'm a vision, I'm this idea person. And that's what fuels me. It happens to pay pretty well too, but I didn't care about the money as much of like, I can't see myself doing this. I was driving a BMW. My guy that was 40 years older than me had a Bentley. Like, fucking ain't that far apart, man. And we were doing the exact same shit. And there's no way I could have saw myself doing that for another 20 years. So just to completely wreck my mom's life, I told her after I got my shit together, I'm going to resign and go start my own company. And that was Delk Enterprises. And that was in 2002. So, yeah. And I've been first year in business. I made $6,000, which doesn't go far when your apartment rent is $5,500 in Chelsea.
Oh man.
But
yeah,
I had some savings, had some bullets. And again, it was that piece of, fuck, I have already done it, right? And so it wasn't this fear of like, what happens if it doesn't work out? Fuck it, it doesn't work out. I can go back to Wall Street. But I don't think as a 22-year-old kid, I would have had that confidence to make it if I hadn't taken that big piece. So I love doing these shows and speaking on stage because the big piece, and every entrepreneur gets it, but anyone that's not been through a cycle or a struggle, so many people have this negative connotation of failure. And that's, the title of the book's Without a Plan. The subtitle is a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. Because that's really what I've done. I just took chances, fucked up a ton, try not to fuck up twice, right? Like learn the lesson and then kind of go back for it. And that's really what's got me here. So I'm an overnight success, 22 years in the making.
I love your point about, trying not to make the same mistake twice. I tell people often that I make a ton of mistakes, but I'm good at only making that mistake one time.
Yeah.
And learning the lessons from that mistake. And hopefully it doesn't have to be so painful to teach me the lesson. But I mean, like you, one of the greatest lessons I ever had was losing a whole bunch on my very first investment and then losing even more, what was it? Probably 5 years later on another investment that ended up being a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
And so, but those two incidents, those two situations defined so much. Like I learned so much and I'm such a better investor today because of those situations.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for them. But in the moment, like you said, it does not feel good.
Yeah.
I actually just got back. You're the first person that I have met with, talked with since my trip to Asia. So we went to Taiwan, spent most of our time in Taipei City, and then spent some time in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Just an awesome group with several of my friends that are part of the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind. And it was just, we went to like 10 to 15 Michelin star restaurants. It was incredible. So you were talking about like being a chameleon and getting to know, people doing international business. And I just think it opens your eyes when you get outside the borders of your own country and experience the rest of the world. So I love that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Offline, I want to hear your Ponzi scheme. I was in one as well. So I think it's like a rite of passage. You have to lose a few $100,000 in a Ponzi scheme.
Oh yeah.
And I knew when I invested it probably was, but it was just like, fuck, it was worth a couple $100,000 to see because the returns were that good. But you're right. I think I love, that's why we definitely offline, I want to talk more about it because like my very first company I exited, I've had several. But the very first one wasn't a big exit. It was a couple $1,000,000. So it was material. Each time it was a transactional. So we took a public, took a private, and then exited to PE. But not for big numbers, but for enough to kind of make it worthwhile. But the thing that really did it, we were launching an animal health biotech company, and I saw the world, man. So from a kid that was the dividend. Like, yeah, I got some money and it was been paid, but I think we launched in 26 countries around the world, dude. And like just driving through and love Hong Kong, been there a million times. I've actually not been, maybe I have been to Taiwan. I've been to South Korea, but I've been to Taiwan. But Thailand, Taiwan, Hong Kong, hundreds of times, Philippines. In Middle East, and the travel piece is the best, in my opinion, the best level of education. Besides,
it is,
but it's so much because you just get an appreciation, dude. Like I know, like we did a lot in Manila, in the Philippines, and dude, like you want to feel like a real asshole. Like take your fucking U.S. problems and go there, right? Because you'll show you people that are living day by day.
That's right.
Have like the worst conditions at our vantage point, who have the biggest smiles on their face you've ever seen. It's such a powerful thing.
No kidding. Well, and for you, I love how early it started because I think you started trading when you were 16 years old. So you built a lot of money. You were trading in your dorm, I mean, just so incredible. Made a ton of money, lost a ton of money, went into corporate America, and then came out the other side, starting a company. When did you exit? So you started in 2002. When was your first exit, and when were kind of subsequent exits from there?
So that one was a lot. So I left in 2002. So that might be my first real exit. So we had a building. I was making good money in New York standards, but not real estate development money. So I was sending cash down to Kentucky, buying houses, renovating, doing fourplexes and rentals and that kind of thing. So I was sending the money down because my money went a lot further. Believe it or not, back in the day, I was building single family homes for $55 a square foot. Now my wife can't fucking find tile that's fucking that cheap. But that was the first piece. So I was already doing that at Fidelity. And that's how Delk Enterprises actually started a little bit before I exited. And a buddy of mine also left Wall Street, and he was in the building material business. And this was the thought process. I'm building shit. He's building. He needs windows. His family was in the lumber business, and then he opened up a window distribution business and a retail shop. I originally got involved as, hey, maybe I could take these windows from New York and bring them to Kentucky. I didn't know anything about windows, or they opened and shut. But that business taught me so much about business because we took it from a retail setting, which is really shitty, but like I learned everything about windows more than I'll ever need to know. Then we took out the distributor we were buying for, became the nationwide distributor. A few years later, started OEM, our own manufacturing facilities in Germany and Italy. So, and then now having lumber yards that were 80 years old, our customers, right? Just two kids from Wall Street. So I learned so much about that business. I moved back to Kentucky in 2007, 2008, and that's when I started the animal health company. So I had a technical exit to my partner, but I mean, it was like $1 million, but it wasn't a lot of money. Okay. My first real exit, more than actual true arm's length, was that animal health business.
Okay. And how long of a time frame was it from start to exit on that business?
Fucking long, man. So it was much longer for the dollar amounts. It was probably 5 years. 5 years. It was a biotech. It was in stem cells when no one knew what stem cells were. Like, you thought we were killing babies. Or like, I mean, it was so the tech was too early. The company's still around, which I like. I talk about it in the book. Like, most of the businesses I've created still precede me, which I think that's a real business if they don't need you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So those businesses are still around, but we, made some money up like first couple of years and then started to grow as biotechs and started to burn. So the money I made, we did a reverse merger with a public company in Australia, which is why I spent so much time down there. I took it back private. So I made money on both of those licks. And then my last lick was selling it to a local private equity company who owns it today as a portfolio asset.
That's great. That's fantastic. And so early days, so now I think Delk is more of like a VC fund, right? In early days, is that what it was, or you were just doing one-off projects?
So the Delk Enterprises, it's called Strategic Capital, and most of them was like I talk about Ryan Deiss and War Room. Most of them was from fucking going to War Room and coming up with ideas, and I would just like, fuck, that's a great idea. So I'd either buy a company or start, right? So I had a lot of shared services. So in my kind of portcos or opcos that I was operating on, I had a lot of things that most businesses need. So finance, I had a good finance team. Sales and marketing, have a great sales and marketing team back when Facebook was good old days, right? Not, most Cambridge
different today.
Like, so we would go through. So I had all those businesses. So it started. So a lot of the businesses on the website, like if you look at the ones that were started, a lot of those we incubated and started, ran fast, failed. And we had a very, we put $50,000, $100,000 in each business, gave it 4 months, set the expectations. It worked or it didn't work. But out of those came real businesses, which was fun. And then from there, the investing have been, a lot of, I mean, you know how it is, like deal flow, like deals get deals. And I don't know how to explain it other than that's how it works. So we would go through, and you're at a conference, you're going through, you see a strategic, like that makes sense. 1 and 1 equals 4. Let's go and put them together. So that's what we like to do. And so it started again, just like everything I've done. That's why the books Without a Plan is, yeah, that makes sense. Well, why don't we do it? So while I've got my second Inc. 500 company this year, True Diagnostic. The first one was a pharmacy business. I can tell you everything about with our business with, I don't know if you know Brian Johnson, who does, like that's all us, like Biological Age, Run the Kardashians.
Okay.
How a hillbilly from Kentucky is involved with the world's leading epigenetic and biological aging company makes no fucking sense from Wall Street. But if you string together regenerative medicine, stem cells to human pharmacy, if you put it all together, they're just building blocks. And I think that's the big piece is backing up and looking at all the shit that I've got now doesn't make a ton of sense. But if you just peel back and just go back a couple years, it just kind of layering through. So now
you learn the importance of process over industry, right? It's like, hey, this works regardless of the industry, right? You've got a playbook. The playbook, if you follow the blueprint, it's going to work agnostic of industry.
Exactly. We are very industry agnostic. That's how I always describe it, because business is business is business. I don't care. B2B, B2C, B2A, I don't care what level you are. People do business with people, and you have to have a compelling thing. And going into industry where you don't necessarily have a fucking clue is sometimes a superpower, because every consultant like, oh, well, this is how it's done. I don't give a fuck how it's done, man. Like I don't tell me, because it's only noise.
That's right.
This is my approach. I may fall on my ass. Great. Okay. But it's sometimes you get lightning in a bottle when you zig and they zag, when you take a very, unconventional approach at things. That's how big problems can be solved. And that's what we like to try and do, or at least
I love that. Yeah, I mean, we took a very similar approach. Like for me, even getting into, when I started the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind, it's one of those things that I was never in financial services. So I never saw the model the way that they saw it. I just saw it the way that I thought it should be. And that's been a blessing to our community, because the way that we do things is totally opposite of the way that it's done on Wall Street. My goal is to not take a carry on anything. I want people to pay membership and want to have the most unbiased approach, because I don't want any compensation anywhere around any of the things that we do. And that way, I feel like in Wall Street and in conventional financial services, everyone is paid based on assets under management, or they're paid a carry. They're always making money on other people's money. And I wanted to be the one place in the financial world, in the investment space, where people aren't making money on other people's money, and where I specifically am not making money on other people's money. Yeah. I only make money because my money's in the deal.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've got some of my best friends are PE guys, and fucking 2 and 20. I love flying on their G550s, man. I like it, but it ain't free. I can tell you that shit.
That's right.
It ain't free.
There's no doubt. And by the way, I get it, because you're going to make more money if that's your model. But that I don't think is the best model. I think there's misalignment through and through with people who would be investing.
Because you're hitting a niche, right? Like you're presumably, because I mean, you mentioned a couple of members, and I knew that you mentioned 2. I knew both of them, right? So you're hitting a niche which is well underserved.
That's right.
Costum had an exit, well, I'm sure, whatever. But people that we know have had exits and have some liquidity, and then like that's for most entrepreneurs, that's the worst fucking thing, because now like they're fucked. They got this identity crisis. So what am I supposed to do now? Like I did my earn out, or I did my garden duty, and like now what? And then that's when they get scammed out of this. The friends come out of the woodwork. So like after all that shit cycles through, then you're like, well, what's real? What's a good deal? And because entrepreneurs, I have like after losing that money, I have, other than my kid's 529, I don't have $1 in the market. I control what I do, right? I was early 23andMe, early Uber. Travis fucked me on that one, but another story. But I usually exit once they go public, right? If I like idea, but most of my investments are illiquid, early stage, where the risk is, and I go in there knowing that, because that's where the gold is. Not most of the time, actually, very rarely, but when it is, it pays for all the losers. So I think the conventional, like my PE buddies are going to this allocator of funds, this teacher pension. I mean, it's just a different bucket of these massive things where they have a problem. They need to get rid of capital because they're making it. So it's all just, you mentioned Ponzi scheme. It's not dissimilar than Ponzi scheme. It's still a racket to keep the machine going because Blackstone's got how many trillions they've got to go and allocate to smaller PEs, and it just kind of goes down. The guys that have got, 5, 10, 20 million bucks in the bank who are entrepreneurial, that doesn't resonate with them. It's not fast enough.
Yeah.
And they don't get it. More importantly, they don't fucking trust it. So I think what you're doing makes a ton of sense. So you're finding that value. And that's where investors, from my piece, I always, kind of talk through and coach people trying to raise money. The knee-jerk reaction is like, Justin, let me tell you about this idea. And you ask me 100 questions, I'll give you 102 answers, right? I know everything. Well,
right.
I'm either a fucking liar or just fucking stupid, one or the other, because the most vulnerable thing you can do, and that's why I talk about being like your true authentic self is so important. The most vulnerable thing you can do is like, man, Justin, I've got this great idea. I can sell anything, ISO Eskimo. I can go through. I fucking can get investor money. I can like make it rain. I don't have a fucking clue how to operate this shit. Bing. Figure that out now, because that may be a trigger. Like, I don't want to deal business with you, and that's fine. But at least we get to know it. Or it could be, great, man. I know how to do that really, really well. That's how I can help. So that's why the strategic capital piece comes on. Everyone's so scared. Well, if I'm going to ask for money, I need to have it all figured out. No one has it all figured out, and they do tell you that, they're lying. Like, show me the business plan in 2019 that someone had a contingency model for a fucking global pandemic. I'll give you $1 million. No one had.
Well, and if you had it all figured out, you don't need the money, or you don't need the team, or you don't need the systems. Like, you're already mature. So yeah, there's no doubt. And for me, I want to solve this problem because you've gone through this, and I'd love to talk through your experience. But, someone has an exit, an entrepreneur sells their business, sells part of their business or all their business. Maybe there's an earnout, maybe there's not. But now it's a different season of life. If there's an earnout, now you're working for someone versus, being the person in charge. Things kind of change, dynamics change. Those generally don't work out well, and they don't last as long as what they're scheduled to last. But for those that have a clean break and a true exit, now all of a sudden, the identity is gone. Your ego for being a founder isn't there. It's kind of like, who am I if I'm not a business owner?
Yeah.
And then also the dollars that you earned and lived your life on through that business are no longer there. So you have this money and it dwindles every single week or every single month as you're spending it down. And most entrepreneurs think, because I'm so good over here as an entrepreneur, I'm going to be so good at investing in companies or investing in entrepreneurs. And it's two different skill sets. And most entrepreneurs flop, hard. They're not good investors. Some are, very few aren't. But one of the things I like to teach is, hey, instead of like taking these big risks on early stage companies, maybe you allocate a percentage of your net worth the way the wealthiest families do, somewhere between 1% and 10%. And then you get a portion of your portfolio that is earning cash flow, enough cash flow to cover your lifestyle. And then you can figure out the other investments from there. And that we've had a great cadence with that because we study these billionaire family offices and what they do and how they do it, what their asset allocation looks like. And contrary to popular belief, most people aren't in the stock market, as you mentioned before, more than 15 to 25%. I mean, that really is the average. And like you, I'm super low. I'm even below that. I'm 1% max. But and it's more because I know I can get a better return. Like, if you study the data, the private markets are going to outperform the public markets, the indexes, whatever portfolio you have there, by generally 50% year over year. And this is true over the last 100 years.
Yeah, for sure. Plus the fees. I mean, so forget the 2 and 20, like big boy stuff, just on, I'm going to put it in a Schwab mutual fund. Fuck, bro. Good luck. Like, run the data, run the model for 30 years of what 1.5 points on that looks like with the return baked on. Only person who makes money is the game, right? That's why 401ks were invented. And I mean, again, talk about all of that for another show, but that's the level of financial illiteracy that there is. And I agree, most investors, and like the only time I've seen good entrepreneurs be good investors, if you were a fucking excellent hire, like if you could hire talent and recruit talent really well and spot it, then you can have a chance of being an investor. Most people, And I used to be this way. I could bring fucking someone like the most low energy person just because of my energy. And I could bring the best out of someone and make them be like me, but that's not what you want. You want someone that's, counterbalancing you or what have you. So if someone can recognize that piece, which usually happens after a couple businesses that you have, where you can have a recognized for talent, that's it. Because the idea is the cheapest part of the whole game, man. Ain't nothing but execution.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the power of being in War Room, the power of being in a mastermind. I'd love to hear you expand, because you said a lot of the ideas, a lot of your best ideas you took were from that community or were from people you partnered with. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I'll give his name. And I remember, because I thought masterminds, like I wasn't in a fraternity in college. I was like, fuck this. I don't need to pay for friends. So he went, his name's Wayne Godwin, still one of my dear friends. I talked to him probably a month ago. We've had 3 businesses together. He was in Russell's mastermind before.
Russell Brunson, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Sorry. And like the big one, like it was like small, like maybe $50,000 a year. And he would tell me he's going to fucking Idaho. Like, what the fuck? How do you even get there? Yeah, I was a pain in the ass. And tell me all this stuff. I'm like, bro, like if you want a friend, give me fucking $20,000 and I'll fucking come. I just come up here and we'll shoot this shit. I thought it was the dumbest fucking thing. And he was doing it for his son and, exposure and whatever. And his son ended up it's still I still have like, I think I have a fucking 10% of the business. I get it. It's nice. I get like, hey, there's a $20,000 deposit. Hey, thanks.
Nice. Well
he
done.
had a great, his son did a great job, Brandon. But I'm like, dude, this is fucking super. He's like, Delk, just try it. So we went to TNC for my first time. I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool.
Traffic and Conversion Summit back in San Diego.
Sorry, yeah. Traffic Conversion, which is like the best. And I'm not a marketing guy, but I'm a sales guy, and I love the understanding. And heard about War Room, and I met Perry. I don't know if you know Perry and I
know Perry. Yeah,
he's a Kentucky guy, and we fucking hit it off. Well, and I'm like, fuck it. Like, what did Perry say? Like, if you fucking hate fucking expensive dinners and staying in nice places, you'll fucking hate it. Of course, which is like the greatest line ever. Like, of course, thanks, bro. And so like I did it, and I'm like, I remember doing it because I think back then we were grandfathered. And it was like $25,000. I think it went up as the years went. I think you actually got to bring a partner with that or something. This was early days of War Room, not like founding. Remember, like midway through. Yeah. We were there for 5 or 6 years, and I just couldn't justify it. And I went to that first one. I don't remember if it was Beverly Hills or because we did some in Austin too, wherever it was, because we usually did the 4 Seasons, I think, in Austin. But I just walked out of there with my mind fucking blown.
Yep.
Just because like the way they did it, and again, they broke off and did other ones. I think they still have them, but they're never the same. But the way they did it was just so good, where it's like signing non-disclosures before you come in. And like you go in there and it's no fucking theory, no ego, no bullshit. Like, oh, I think if you do, it's like, no, motherfucker, I did this. I ran it. I lost my ass. Like, don't do it. Qasim would just blow him up. Always had the best shit. He'd always win the fucking.
Oh yeah, he's so
Genius
smart.
Awards where they had. I forget.
That's right.
But he would always, because he would just come up with shit. You're like, fuck, who are you? Like, where do you come up with this stuff? And can you apply everything to your business? Like he had an agency business that did well, but not always is there a direct correlation. But most of the time, there was something that you could, imprint over that would still hold water, which goes back to business being agnostic, right? So it's business is business is business. And that happened literally every time. The problem with going was like, fuck. I mean, I told my whole staff, like, I promise I'm not going to start another company. I promise, or I'm going to invest. Never kept the promise to anybody. And again, none of them all worked, but it was a lot of fun. It's like-minded people. And it was a great run.
Yeah, there's so much value in them, and I encourage anyone that's listening to this, check out, find one that is good for you. I think peer group matters so much, mentorship matters so much, menteeship matters. Like when you're good at something, you should be teaching people how to do stuff, but at a minimum, you should be elevating your peer group and expanding your horizons and finding whatever. So it doesn't have to be Lifestyle Investor. It can't be War Room. That's over now, but it can literally be any community. You just want to find like-minded people that are playing the game of business and life and wealth creation at a higher level. So it matters.
Because like you got people that are speaking on stage and going through and like, that's good. And sometimes there's a product, good or service that's attached to it. But like Steve Sims, like, do you know Steve?
Oh, love Steve. Yeah. He's been on the show.
Dude, fucking Steve's a legend. We built a great relationship. I was talking with him earlier. He's going through a health deal. But dude, one of the nicest, most genuine guys ever. And we just connected because we sat across from each other. And I went to his event a couple times. But like, you can go through and talk and no one gives a fuck. Because what's good? Like, am I going to steal his lifestyle concierge? But like, no one's going to take anything from you. So he was going through, that's what he was actually, he was just exiting Bluefish.
Okay.
And like you can say like, hey, well, this is how I did, or this is what they did to me, or make sure you peg working capital because they'll fuck you on like all these things that no one tells you, no fucking lawyer consultant's going to tell you, but someone that's been through it, they want to share that because it's almost like, dude, fuck it, I got screwed here. Let me look out. And then and that's invaluable.
Well, if people let their guard down. So it's the tough to reach people that are actually not tough to reach once you get into the group. So figure out who you want to connect with and what groups they're in and get in those groups. So I love it. Now, one thing I would love to touch on is your experience. So you sold several companies. At some point, you came into a lot of money. You can share specifics or you can be vague with it. But there's a pivot from being an entrepreneur to being an investor. And I'd love for you to share what that was like. I mean, partially ego shifts a little bit. You know, you're no longer the guy running the show. But to a certain degree, you can be on the investment side, right? But what was that like for you?
So after the small company, which I was like CEO and, you know, the biotech deal, I think I grew up on that one, on the next company, because we grew that was the Inc. 500, like 24th fastest growing. We grew it from like 0 to almost 50 million in revenue. And like, it became a machine and still is. Like the company we sold it, they just did a $12 million expansion and it's still fine. We had 100 and something employees. Like that, you really quickly realize that you can bootstrap. When I'm saying bootstrap, not like necessarily the finances, because like this was super profitable, but you can bootstrap yourself so far to where I don't give a fuck how many hours there are. You just can't do it, right? So that's when you started having to get creative on how do I, you know, put trust in people and put management and put processes in place. So that was for me the adaptation of, you know, a real business. Because and that's what you want. Like if it's going to grow and big, like you can't do all of it, and that's what you quickly learn. So it wasn't as much ego shift; it was much more realization. Like you are becoming an impediment to the business, not an asset. And I think when you go from that piece, you know, understanding who you are is super important. Like I get bored, man. Like I have to bring adults in at a certain point. I'm a 0, like Peter Thiel, a great book, 0 to 1. Yep. I'm that guy. I love taking an idea. That's why I'm doing a lot of real estate development. I love we did a commercial to resi conversion. Like I love that. I've sold out. We haven't owned the building a year. We've done 20 million in sales, closed on stuff, like completely did it in 12 months. I fucking am over that project. Like you have no idea. Because there's nothing else. Like it's on autopilot. They just build this shit, we'll close. Like there's nothing cool. I'm that's why I left Wall Street. I love the early stage kind of piece. So I found that after about 30, 40 million bucks, I will fucking destroy that business just on trying to tweak and tinker. And you need to bring in the adults who are operators.
True C-suite, right? The professionals that do it for a living.
I have the ability to be an operator. I have the ability. I fucking hate it, but I have the ability. So what? And then what you find is like, oh, operating, everything's going good. Well, what if we just fuck with this shit? And then there's a problem that I can go and fix. That's what I love. I think my social media team put a thing up, says, "Don't call me if your business is scaling and profitably and going good." Like, in that the joke is like, call me when your shit just burning down, because that's when I'm actually interested. If everything's going good, like fucking, I'm sorry, man. Talk to your accountant. I can't help you.
Well, like you, it's the greatest. So I played 2 different roles in my businesses before. I've been the COO, right? I've been a CEO, of course, but COO, truly running things. And the problem is I'm actually equipped to do it. Like you, I don't enjoy it, or at least I don't at a certain point, right? I'm okay figuring it out. I'm okay, like taking it to whatever level, but at a certain point that probably isn't the greatest gifts or use of my gifts. But I can do it, which is dangerous because then it makes it harder to bring someone in if you can justify doing it. Same thing for a CFO. I've been a CFO for several of the businesses that we've run, and I have the skill set to be able to do it. I don't enjoy that either. But sometimes for a long time, I didn't bring in the professionals because I had enough know-how to do it right. But what I will say is once I made the decision to do it and I found the right person, it was like the decision was screaming afterwards, like, why did you wait so long? This person's so good. They're so much better.
Exactly. So I just realized with even your response, I didn't really answer the question. So I think it's part of that. The whole component is how you deal with it after the exit is you should have that process as you're building the business. And the fact that, hey, like, what is my superpower? What did I do in this business to maximize value? Most of the time, it's vision-oriented, idea, big thinking, and having you being able to execute and other people being able to execute. That's most founder situations.
That's right.
So if that's what you like, well, then go and do more of that, and you can do it. So now I'm on the big diagnostic business that, you know, it should change the world. Like that our goal. Like I brought on partners who have had exits before. So none of us give a fuck about money. Like you couldn't bring a big number to us. Like, fuck you. We don't care.
I love it.
And we will be either the most valuable healthcare company ever or just some small couple $100 million business. Either way, the worst case isn't that bad. But I have, that's the mindset. And so now, like, I'm on weekly calls because I don't need to be there, right? So it's more than a board level. So I'm on a weekly advisory call. And then if I hear something, I'll mix it up and say, hey, maybe consider this, maybe. And there's no like, did it work or not? You don't have to report to me. I'm not on the org chart by design. 0 people report to me. I fucking love it. But I love being able to say, like, hey, I'll get my hands dirty. But that's so freeing to have now let me play and do silly real estate stuff or invest in these Israeli startups or whatever it is I'm looking at.
I love that. And I just think that there's a power in getting to a place where you financially don't need the money because you make better life decisions and better business decisions. You know, earlier in business, when money's not taken care of, you make decisions based on the number one question is, can we afford it? Can we not? That's not always the best quality question, right? Yeah. Is that best for the customers? Is that best for scale? Right. Is that best for, employees? There's so many better quality questions. Like, is this the direction we want to go? So I think that the sooner you can cover your lifestyle with passive income, the better decisions, A, you make in life in general, higher quality decisions, and then B, the better decisions you make in your business. So that to me is just everything. You clear that, and you're just going to be asking better quality questions and having better quality outcomes.
For sure. And just on this, like, I think that's so important for early investors, like in early founders, not investors, early founders, because I see so many people take money from the wrong fucking people so often. Yeah. And like, that's a marriage, man. It ain't fucking easy to break that shit up. So like hey, I need this money, but do you really need it? So like, cash starved businesses make so much, even like when we were having our little incubator, we were funding deals. Like, I was being like, yeah, I could fucking write a check for 5 times what I was writing to go and do it. But that's fucking lazy. Then you're gonna hire a consultant to do a consultant, like, get in there, dig it out, do the split test, like, go and do the work and pretend you have no money. I'm going to backstop you, right? Which is a good safety net, but a cash starved mentality will force you to make better decisions every time.
That's right. Well, this has been such a fun episode. I love just spending time with you, hearing your thoughts, hearing about your business successes, your investment successes, just what life was like in those different stages. Where can people learn more about you, Jeremy, and your book and your speaking and coaching that you do?
Yeah, so it's jeremydelk.com. I'm Jeremy S. Delk on all socials. And
That's awesome. Well, this has been a great episode. I appreciate you spending some time with us. And I like ending every episode that we do with a question to our audience. So my question is the same every week. What is one step you can take today to move towards financial freedom and really living the life that you desire? So life on your terms, not a life by default, right? Keeping the playbook open for life by design. So what's one step from what you learned from Jeremy today that you can implement in your life to move one step closer? Thanks, and we'll catch you next week.